What's going on, ProGuides family? My name is Nathaning and I'm going to be your host for this video. Since you've clicked here, you should know that this is our high ELO tier list for patch 11.13, and if you haven't seen it, you should absolutely check out our initial patch rundown, which comprehensively covers every change from this patch. Instead, this video is going to go over champion changes and provides modified tier lists for players at the top. Make sure you hit that sub button and let's hop right into the video. So first up, we'll be looking at the top lane. There were a ton of top lane balance changes this patch, but most of them came from items. Stridebreaker received a rework and the meta is up for a major shift as the patch plays out. In terms of champion balance, however, we do have Riven. Her E's base shield has been reduced from 95 to 215 to 80 to 200. 15 is without a doubt a moderate amount. Regardless of what rank you're playing at, the nerf is noticeable. In high ELO, this is a much bigger nerf simply because the numbers matter more. Fights are typically much closer, players punish mistakes more effectively, and even without mistakes, Riven's shield is still smaller than before. The fact that you've lost 15 points on a shield that you're constantly using throughout the laning phase really adds up. Essentially, every trade that you take is going to end up a little bit worse, and eventually, players will find themselves missing out about 100 health that they should have had last patch. With this nerf, we'll be moving down Riven from the OP tier to the S tier. We think that she'll still remain a solid pick though. By the way, if you're struggling with hard champions like Riven, check out our website ProGuides.com. We have a ton of coaches, and I'm sure a decent amount of them could help you pick her up or any other mechanically intense champion that you're struggling with. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the other changes. The first one that we have to mention is Mundo. As promised, it's a new patch and we need to place them all for you. We placed them in the A tier for now. To be frank, it's a pretty tough call. In Platinum and higher, he ended up just below the 50% win rate, but based on the data from Elite Play, his win rates are unsatisfactory. There's still plenty of room for growth, and we won't write him off just yet, even in high ELO. Players are still mastering the newly reworked champion, and his win rates will probably increase gradually. Of course, one other contributing factor is that high ELO players are better at playing around Dr. Mundo's passive. They make sure to go for a short trade and break a CC immunity before committing to a real fight or even before a teammate comes in for a gank. Also, they build Grievous Wounds. People spend the 800 gold, guys. It is so worth it, especially against these types of champions. One more big change that we made is that we moved Camille up to the OP tier. With nerfs to Stridebreaker, her mobility and versatility hold more weight. Ever since buffs to Divine Sunderer, her win rate has been slowly on the rise. There is no doubt that she'll end up at the top in terms of both play rate and pick rate by the end of the patch. Our OP picks for the top lane are Gwen and Camille, followed up by Riven, Pantheon, Jax, Malphite, Aatrox, Irelia, Fiora, Wukong, Gnar, Poppy, Darius, Set, Cinch, Sylas, and Shen. That covered, let's hop into the jungle next. In the jungle, we'll begin with the nerf to Rumble. Given that his most popular role is now the jungle, it's more appropriate that we placed him here. His W's cooldown was increased from 6 seconds to a scaling of 7 to 6 seconds. Also, the movement speed bonus was lowered from 15 to 35 to 10 to 30%. This ability is typically maxed last, so players will have to eat the second longer cooldown for most of the game as well as lower movement speed for all of it. Mobility creep was a huge target of this patch, and unfortunately Rumble wasn't able to escape. Literally, probably because of his 1 second longer cooldown. His W is the only form of mobility, and even then, it's not a dash or a blink. It's only a short burst of movement speed, and it should be easier to punish Rumble players that overcommit to a fight that they can't win. It also affects heat management a bit, so that's something to be looking out for. We'll be leaving him in the B tier for this patch. Next on the list is Lee Sin. He had this nerf coming as players have been doing spectacularly with him for several patches now. Unfortunately, he was overbuffed after a poor start to Season 11. This patch, his E's damage was decreased from 100 to 260 to 100 to 220. Ultimately, his mid-game and late game are taking a big hit. Another reason this nerf hurts is that solo lane Lee Sin is also hit by it. In either solo lane, it's a lot easier to rack up the XP and hit level 13 faster than enemies. Maxed E won't hit the same anymore, and just like that, the legacy of a severely overpowered but stylish pick might come to an end. We moved Lee Sin down from the OP tier to the S tier after this nerf. Olaf was buffed this patch. While we don't expect him to make a comeback with a small one as this, a buff is still a buff and we have to cover it. His health per level was increased from 93 to 100. Thinking about it, there's very little difference early on, but it could be definitely the difference between First Blood or feeding in fights that would previously have been decided by a single attack. Like most junglers, Olaf does snowball pretty hard, so I'm not going to rule this one out just yet. Nevertheless, we will be leaving Olaf's placement untouched in light of a rather insignificant buff. A more significant buff was for Viego. Riot is sick of mid lane Viego. They just made a jungler, and like always, players find a way to push these characters into other roles. and here's how they gone about it. His Q's minion healing was lowered from 100 to 50%. In return, his E's movement speed was increased by 5% at all ranks from 20 to 30 to 25 to 35%. His E's missile speed was also raised from 1000 to 1200 and the range from 700 to 775. Not gonna lie, these are some solid buffs for sure. With this laning weaker, he'll definitely see more play in the jungle, but we'll go ahead and leave him in the S tier. Now for the other shifts, the biggest one is that we moved Xin Zhao up to the OP tier. We've gone from a champion with one of the highest skill ceilings with one with the low one. Xin Zhao, when strong, absolutely destroys his enemies. He is straightforward and leaves almost no counterplay. While his two-dimensional playstyle is typically a hindrance to him and prevents him from being OP at the higher levels of play, he's in a great spot right now. The point-and-click special is rather impressive, and last patch, he ended up being the second most popular jungler in Elite play, second only to Lee Sin. His ban rate is also slowly on the rise as players get more and more fed up with him, or fed with him. Since we're talking about Xin Zhao, let me ask you the question of the day. Do you think playing easy champions is less fun? Personally, I don't, and that's because the game isn't all about who you play, it's also about who your opponents play. Regardless of what you're playing, there's going to be a ton of abilities and outplays that you'll have to make when playing specific champions. Let me know your answers in the comments down below, and let's get back to the changes. Other shifts that we made include Mundo moving him into the D tier. The champion is pretty good, but his jungling isn't quite there yet. Riot was planning on buffing him this patch but scrapped those changes, noting that they're still working on them. If you were curious, he was below a 40% win rate at elite levels for pretty much the whole patch. Elise has also been moved down from the OP tier to the S tier. There are plenty of picks looking to fight for a spot in the OP tier like Kindred, Shaco, and Kha'Zix. We'll have to see how the meta shifts, however, as there were some pretty big systematic changes. In the OP tier, we feature Xin Zhao, and followed up by him in the S tier, we have Lee Sin, Evelynn, Kayn, Taliyah, Fiddlesticks, Rek'Sai, Viego, Nidalee, Kha'Zix, Shaco, Karthus, Diana, Kindred, and Elise. That covers the jungle changes, so let's go ahead and run through the mid lane. The mid lane unfortunately features no champion balance changes this patch. That's because the role was also subject to huge system changes. Mages saw several of their mythics item buffs, Leandries, Ludens, and even Everfrost as their prices got reduced by 200. We want to see how the patch plays out before making a comprehensive shift on the tier list, but for now we'll go ahead and make a few adjustments. First, Sylas is up into the OP tier. He's been a solid choice for quite a while now. He has an incredible ultimate as well as high damage output. Everfrost is his go-to mythic item, and now that it's cheaper, he can get rolling even faster than before. One other change is that Viego is down a tier. After a big hit on his sustain, he's definitely going to be dropping out of the S tier. We're going light on him, and we're going to be dropping him into the A tier instead. His damage has stayed the same after all, and he's also receiving other buffs to counteract the sustained nerf. Finally, Qiyana is down to the S tier this patch. There are a ton of picks that might be able to take that spot from her in the next patch, but then again, the system changes were pretty huge. We'll have to see how the patch plays out, but be on the lookout for Katarina or Kassadin. There's also Kali, who's close to pushing into the S tier. Moving forward, our OP picks are Zed and Sylas, followed up by Katarina, Fizz, Annie, Galio, Yasuo, Echo, LeBlanc, Yone, Vladimir, Diana, Kassadin, Pantheon, Talon, Wukong, and Qiyana. For the bottom lane, we had a couple of buffs as well as a nerf to ranged champions building Divine Sunderer. The champions in our C tier were actually the targets, so let's start with Xayah. Her Q damage per dagger was increased from 45 to 125 to 50 to 150. Especially when you hit both, this is a sizable increase in damage, and thus, it's much more rewarding when you play her well. But for now, unfortunately, we gotta leave her in the C tier, but the buff is definitely nice, and we need to continue checking in on her. Aphelios is up for more buffs after the last ones didn't pan out too well. This time the buffs are much more straightforward, and there's no way in the world that this could go wrong, right? His passive AD bonus was increased from 4 to 24 to 5 to 30, while his passive lethality bonus was increased from 3.5 to 21 to 4.5 to 27. AD buffs are always a big deal when playing a marksman. Right from the get-go, you already start with 1 more AD, and this scales up to 6 into the late game. While it may not seem like that big of a deal, this is doubled up with some lethality buffs, and there's a realistic chance that Aphelios gets pushed into the B tier. We'll continue checking in on him, but we'll also have to leave him in his current placement. Speaking of checking in, I hope you guys are doing well. Whatever you guys are going through in life, just know that you're worth it. Seriously. Except if you play Yuumi, then you could go to hell. The biggest bot lane changes are for Ezreal and Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench obviously had his rework this patch, and we'll be leaving him unranked. Our analyst wants some time to see how he does and gain experience playing with and against him as a bot laner. Ezreal received a huge nerf as Divine Slanderer now does less damage for ranged champions. He has other merits though, and we still think that he'll hold onto his spot as an OP pick because of his safety. Even though the damage is lower, Slanderer also makes Ezreal harder to kill. Frozen Heart is a pretty popular purchase on him now, and the result is something similar to blue build Ezreal from the previous seasons. Our OP pick is Ezreal, followed up by Kai'Sa, Vayne, Tristana, Jhin, Seraphine, Swain, Samara, Ashe, Jinx, and Sivir in the S tier. Let's wrap things up with a support next. As most of us know, Tahm Kench was reworked this patch. Let's quickly run through what was changed. For his base stats, his mana per level was increased from 40 to 50, base armor lowered from 47 to 42, base HP from 600 to 570, and HP per level from 100 to 95. Next, his passive damage was lowered from 4 to 2.5% of his maximum health as bonus magic damage. His Q's damage was left untouched. However, its slow and duration was lowered from 3 to 2 seconds. Something new is that landing a Q on an enemy champion now heals Tahm Kench for 6 to 10% of his missing health. If an enemy champion has already 3 stacks of an acquired taste, Tahm Kench can now devour them from a range. That said, Devour is now his ultimate, and replacing his W is Abyssal Dive. With it, you'll dive down and plunge out from a target location, dealing 100 to 240 damage, plus 100% AP damage, and knocking up nearby enemies. Hitting at least one champion will refund 30% of the cooldown, and just like before, you can bring an ally who is devoured. His new ultimate comes with some changes. When Devour is cast on an enemy with 3 acquired taste stacks, they'll take 100 to 400 plus 15 plus 0.05 AP percent of their maximum health as damage. Enemies can now be devoured for up to 3 seconds. This makes for one of the longest forms of crowd control in the game. Or you can just play Morgana and just hit a Q. I don't know. However, he'll be slowed for 40% and grounded during this. When cast on an ally, they'll gain 300 to 600 plus 100% AP shield for 2.5 seconds after being spat out. Tahm Kench will be grounded and slowed by 40 to 10%, but will still be able to cast his Abyssal Dive. With these changes, he's going to be unranked until we could gather some more information. Our OP picks are Thresh and Lulu, followed up by Bard, Morgana, Janna, Alistar, Blitzcrank, Leona, Senna, and Nautilus in the S tier. That'll be wrapping up things for our high ELO tier list in patch 11.13. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Sorry if my voice seems a little bit dead. I've been on set for about 16 hours, and I just really wanted to get the script out for you guys. Anyway, if you want to expand the description, you can find the link to join our Discord. I love to see you guys there, but there's so more to that. You can make new friends, and also be the first to find out about future giveaways, or even hang out with me or Kangas. Alright, best of luck on the Rift Summoners, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.